when a door closes in our lives, it's natural to feel discouraged, frustrated, or even confused. We often pour our energy, time, and heart into something only to find it slipping through our fingers. Whether it's a job we didn't get, a relationship that didn't last, or an opportunity that didn't work out, the sting of rejection can feel like a setback. But what if that closed door wasn't a failure? What if it was actually a setup for something greater? Sometimes we have our hearts set on something that looks perfect in the moment, but God sees beyond what we can see. He knows what's ahead, and He knows what's best for us. When a door closes, it's not because we aren't good enough, smart enough, or talented enough. It's because God is redirecting us towards something far better. Think about a parent keeping a child from running into a busy street. The child may cry, protest, and not understand why they aren't allowed to go where they want, but the parent sees the danger ahead. In the same way, when God closes a door, it's often because He's protecting us from something we don't see, whether it's heartache, disappointment, or something that would limit our potential. Sometimes a closed door isn't about protection, but preparation. There are things we are praying for that we aren't ready to handle yet. We may think we're prepared for that promotion, that leadership position, or that dream opportunity, but if we stepped into it too soon, it could overwhelm us. A closed door gives us time to grow, to develop, and to become the person who can step confidently into the greater opportunity waiting ahead. Joseph in the Bible had dreams of greatness, but before he could reach the palace, he faced years of closed doors, betrayal by his brothers, slavery, false accusations, and imprisonment. Every closed door seemed like a setback, but in reality, each one was a step leading him closer to his destiny. The pit led to the prison led to Pharaoh's palace, and Pharaoh's palace led to a position of influence that saved an entire nation. Looking back, we can often see that what we once thought was a disappointment was actually divine alignment. The job we didn't get made room for a better one. The relationship that ended freed us for the right person. The opportunity that didn't work out created space for something beyond what we imagined. A closed door is never the end of the story. It's simply part of the setup for something far greater. One of the most challenging things to face in life is waiting. You pray, you believe, you work hard, but nothing seems to be happening. The promotion you expected hasn't come. The breakthrough you've been believing for feels out of reach. The dream in your heart seems like it's stuck in place. It's easy to feel like the delay means that God has forgotten you or that your prayers aren't being heard. But just because something is delayed doesn't mean it's denied. God's timing is not always our timing. We live in a world that celebrates instant results, instant success, instant gratification, instant solutions. But the best things in life often take time. When God is preparing you for something great, He doesn't rush the process. He develops you, strengthens you, and builds your character so that when the opportunity comes, you're ready for it. The delay isn't meant to frustrate you, it's meant to prepare you. To think about a seed planted in the ground. If you plant a seed today, you can't expect to see fruit tomorrow. It's a process. Roots have to grow. The plant has to break through the soil, and it has to receive the right amount of sunlight and water. The delay between planting and harvest isn't a sign that the seed is dead. It's proof that growth is happening beneath the surface. In the same way, when you're waiting, it doesn't mean nothing is happening. God is working behind the scenes, arranging the right people, the right doors, and the right opportunities for the perfect time. Sometimes we think we're ready for what we're asking for, but God knows we need more time to develop. If He gave us everything we wanted right away, we might not be able to handle it. A delay can be God's way of strengthening us, teaching us patience, and shaping our faith. It's in the waiting season that we learn to trust Him fully, even when we don't see the results yet. Abraham and Sarah were promised a child, but they had to wait years before Isaac was born. David was anointed as king, but he spent years tending sheep and running from Saul before he took the throne. Joseph had dreams of leadership, but he went through betrayal, slavery, and prison before he stepped into his destiny. Each of them faced delays, but those delays didn't mean their promises were denied. Every moment of waiting was part of God's greater plan, positioning them for something far greater than they imagined. Waiting doesn't mean you've been forgotten. It doesn't mean you're being punished. It simply means that what God has in store for you is too important to be rushed. The delay is not a rejection. It's a divine setup for something far greater than you expected. Life often feels like a race against time. We have dreams, goals, and expectations, and when things don't happen as quickly as we want, it's easy to get frustrated. We wonder why the promotion hasn't come yet, why the right person hasn't shown up, why the opportunity we've been praying for seems so far away. But what we must remember is that God operates on a different timetable than we do. He sees the full picture, the past, the present, and the future, and He knows exactly when to bring things to pass. When things are delayed, we tend to assume that something is wrong. We question whether we missed our chance or if we're being overlooked. But just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it's not going to happen. God's timing is intentional. He knows when we're ready, when the circumstances are right, and when the people we need to meet are in place. His timing isn't just about us, it's about aligning everything perfectly. Imagine a mother preparing a meal for her child. She doesn't serve the food before it's ready because she knows it wouldn't be good. If it's taken out of the oven too soon, it won't taste right. In the same way, if God gave us what we wanted before the right time, we might not be prepared to handle it. We may think we're ready, but God sees what we can't see. He knows the challenges ahead, the responsibilities that come with the blessing and the growth required to sustain what He's about to give us. Think about Moses. He had a calling on his life to lead the Israelites, but he spent 40 years in the wilderness before stepping into that role. David was anointed king as a teenager, but it took years before he sat on the throne. Joseph had a dream of leadership, but before that dream came to pass, he went through betrayal, slavery, and imprisonment. Every one of them had to wait, but when the time was right, the promise was fulfilled. Sometimes the delay is about building character. If we received everything we wanted the moment we asked for it, we wouldn't develop faith, patience, or trust in God's plan. Waiting seasons stretch us, teach us to rely on Him, and prepare us for the blessings ahead. What looks like a delay on our end is actually divine precision. God is never too early and never too late. What He has promised will happen exactly when it's supposed to. Rejection is one of the most painful experiences in life. Whether it's a job opportunity that didn't work out, a relationship that ended, or a dream that seems out of reach, rejection can leave us feeling unworthy, overlooked, and discouraged. It's easy to believe that rejection means something is wrong with us or that we've missed our chance. But what if rejection wasn't a sign of failure? What if it was actually divine protection? God doesn't allow rejection to happen to break us. He allows it to redirect us. There are things we desperately want, doors we are determined to walk through, and people we believe we can't live without. But God sees what we don't see. He knows what's waiting behind that door. He knows the true intentions of the people we think we need. He knows whether that opportunity will bring us peace or pain. When He allows rejection, it's not to harm us. It's to shield us from something that could delay our purpose, limit our growth, or cause unnecessary heartache. Hearing the word no can be one of the most discouraging experiences in life. You apply for the job, but they choose someone else. You step out in faith, but the opportunity doesn't work out. You invest time and effort into something, believing it will succeed, only to hit a dead end. It's easy to take rejection personally, to think that a no means you're not good enough, talented enough, or qualified enough. But a no is not a definition of your worth. It's simply a redirection to something greater. Too often, we allow rejection to shape our identity. We think because one person walked away, we must not be valuable. Because one company didn't hire us, we must not be talented. Because one dream didn't come to pass, we must not be capable. But a closed door is not a reflection of your potential. It's a sign that God has something better in store. Look at some of the most successful people in history. Walt Disney was told he lacked imagination. Oprah Winfrey was fired from her first television job. Thomas Edison was told he wasn't smart enough. If they had allowed those no's to define them, they would have never stepped into their destiny. The same is true for you. The no you received is not the end of your story. God still has a plan, and His plan is not limited by human rejection. Sometimes a no is God's way of protecting you. You may have been praying for that relationship to work out, but God knew it would only bring heartache. You may have wanted that position, but God saw that it would limit your growth. What we see as rejection, God sees as divine intervention. He's not closing doors to punish you. He's closing them to guide you. Other times, a no is God's way of preparing you. Just because something didn't happen now doesn't mean it will never happen. Delay is not denial. David was anointed as king as a teenager, but he didn't take the throne until years later. Joseph had a dream of leadership, but before it came to pass, he faced betrayal, slavery, and imprisonment. If they had given up after their first no, they would have never seen the promise fulfilled. Rejection is not a reflection of who you are. You are not defined by a missed opportunity, a failed attempt, or someone else's opinion. God's plans for you are bigger than any no you face. The only way a rejection can stop you is if you allow it to. But when you trust that God is still working, that He is leading you to something greater, you'll realize that every no is just part of the setup for an even greater yes. In life, we will all face closed doors, opportunities that don't work out, relationships that don't last, dreams that seem to slip away. It can be discouraging when you've done everything right, prayed, worked hard, and believed, only to find the door shut in your face. It's easy to think that a closed door means the end of the road, that somehow you've missed your chance. But just because a door is closed doesn't mean your story is over. A closed door is not your final destination. It's simply a detour leading you to something greater. Too often people stop at the first sign of rejection. They assume that because one opportunity didn't work out, nothing else will. But God never promised that every door would open instantly. He never said there wouldn't be delays, disappointments, or obstacles. What He did promise is that He has a plan for your life, and that plan is still in motion even when a door closes. Think about a GPS. When you're driving toward your destination and you hit a roadblock, the GPS doesn't tell you to stop and go home. It recalculates, finds a new route, and keeps you moving forward. That's exactly what God does when a door closes in your life. He doesn't cancel your destination. He simply reroutes you. Sometimes a closed door is God's way of redirecting you. You may be heading towards something that looks good on the surface, but God sees the bigger picture. He knows what's ahead, what will help you, what will harm you, and what will limit your potential. What seems like a setback is actually a setup for something far better than you imagine. Other times, a closed door is God's way of strengthening you. If everything happened easily, we wouldn't grow, we wouldn't develop faith, and we wouldn't appreciate the blessing when it comes. David was anointed to be king, but before he ever sat on the throne, he spent years in the wilderness, facing battles, rejection, and hardship. If he had stopped at the first closed door, he never would have fulfilled his destiny. Just because something didn't work out the way you expected doesn't mean it won't work out at all. The key is to keep moving forward. Don't build your house in a place that was meant to be a passing season. Don't let one closed door convince you that God has forgotten about you. He is still working, still leading, and still opening doors that no one can shut. What He has for you is still ahead. And as long as you keep trusting, keep believing, and keep walking, you will arrive at the place He has prepared for you. Life is full of doors, some open, some closed, some that seem impossible to walk through. At times we knock on doors that never seem to budge. We apply for jobs and get no response. Pursue relationships that don't work out, or chase after dreams that seem out of reach. It's easy to get discouraged when the doors we want to walk through remain shut. But the good news is, God is the master of open doors. When He opens a door, no one can shut it. And when He closes one, it's because He has something better in store. Sometimes we put too much trust in people to open doors for us. We think if we impress the right boss, meet the right connection, or get approval from others, then we'll move forward. But people are not in control of your destiny. God is. If a door is meant for you, no person, no mistake, no opposition can keep it from opening. And if a door doesn't open, you can trust that God is protecting you from something that isn't meant for you. Think about Paul and Silas in the Bible. They were thrown into prison for preaching the gospel. It looked like every door was closed, literally and figuratively. But at midnight, as they worshiped and prayed, God sent an earthquake that opened every prison door. The guards had no power to stop it. The chains that held them had no power to resist it. When God decides to open a door, nothing can stand in His way. Sometimes God allows doors to remain closed because He's building your faith. It's easy to trust Him when everything is going smoothly, but will you still trust Him when the answer is delayed? Will you still believe when the opportunity doesn't come as fast as you'd hoped? Closed doors don't mean God is ignoring you. They mean He is preparing you. The right door, the best door, the God-ordained door will open at the perfect time. Other times, God will open a door suddenly and supernaturally. You may feel stuck right now, but in an instant, things can shift. One phone call, one conversation, one divine appointment can change everything. What you've been waiting for, praying for, and believing for could be just around the corner. The key is to stay faithful, stay expectant, and stay ready. God is not limited by circumstances, by your background, or by what others say about you. He holds all power, and when He opens a door, it will lead to favor, increase, and blessings beyond what you imagined. He is the master of open doors, and what He has prepared for you, no force on earth can stop. Life is full of moments that don't make sense. You pray, you believe, you do everything you know to do. But things don't turn out the way you expected. The promotion goes to someone else, the relationship ends, the opportunity you were counting on falls through. It's easy to wonder, God, where are you? Why is this happening? But just because you don't understand the process doesn't mean God isn't working. His ways are higher than our ways, and His thoughts are greater than our thoughts. What looks like a setback is often a setup for something better. We like to have all the answers. We want to see the full picture, know exactly where we're going, and understand why things happen the way they do. But faith isn't about understanding everything. It's about trusting that even when things don't make sense, God is still in control. He sees what you can't see. He knows what's around the corner, what's best for you, and what will position you for the future He has planned.